What counts as serious trading volume? Is it 10 million? 50 million? Well, what about 570 million? That's how much trading volume Robinhood's brand new blockchain pushed through Uniswap in a single day during its very first week. That was enough to sit second only to Ethereum itself among every Uniswap deployment in crypto. Now, plenty of chains launch with fireworks and plenty of hype, but almost none launch with 27 million funded, KYC'd, ready-to-trade customers already sitting in the app. That's the difference. A mainstream giant just walked straight into crypto's home turf and posted one of the strongest DEX launches the space has ever seen. But as impressive as these figures are, there are some big questions to ask here. Is this crypto's first genuine mainstream super app arriving for real? Or is it just a launch week sugar high that fades the second the incentives dry up? So today, we're going to break down Robinhood Chain's explosive debut, expose what's actually driving that eye-watering volume, and answer whether it can truly compete with the likes of Solana and Hyperliquid in the long run. My name is Lewis, and you're watching the Coin Bureau. Now, before we dive in, a bit of context on just how big the player is here. As I record this, Robinhood stock trades at around $110, with the market cap just shy of $100 billion, up nearly 18% over the past month. Robinhood is a publicly traded brokerage that is increasingly betting its brand on public blockchains, a far cry from an anonymous dev team with a Telegram group. And that bet got kicked into another gear on July 1st, 2026, when Robinhood Chain went live. And the first thing that you need to know about this launch is Robinhood's major advantage: distribution. As of May 2026, Robinhood reported 27.7 million funded customers and roughly $377 billion in total platform assets. These are just astronomical numbers, especially in the cryptoverse. Solana had to bootstrap its user base the hard way, one wallet at a time, over years. Base did exactly the same, even with Coinbase behind it. Robinhood starts with 27 million people funded and verified, already tapping buttons in an app that they've become accustomed to. Nobody else in crypto has that kind of on-ramp. Beyond simple trading, Robinhood has built a complete super app stack directly on top of the chain. You've got tokenized stocks, 95 equities and ETFs like Nvidia, Apple, and Alphabet priced through the Chainlink oracles and available in over 120 countries. You've got perpetual futures via Lighter, which committed $11 million in tokens just to bring traders into the tech. You've got DeFi lending through Morpho, and something called Robinhood Earn offering around 7% yield on a stablecoin. And on top of all of that, there is a gloriously simple UX setup for anyone that wants to get involved. Users don't have to deal with seed phrases or bridging, completely bypassing the terrifying UX that often scares normal people away from DeFi. You interact through the Robinhood wallet like you already have. So, this is the first serious attempt to put real on-chain products into the mainstream hands, without the friction that's kept everyone but the diehard fans out for decades. And the early numbers back it up. TVL crossed $100 million inside the first week. Daily active addresses peaked north of 190,000. And by July 10th, the chain was processing 7.6 million daily transactions, closing in fast on Base's 9.2 million. For a chain that's a couple of weeks old, that's pretty damn impressive. That activity proved momentum, and in crypto, momentum tends to beget further momentum. New chain, incentives flowing, volume exploding, and many other corners of crypto stubbornly ignoring the green candles until they feel compelled to FOMO in. That combination is exactly where the biggest opportunities in crypto tend to be. But spotting these moments early, before the crowd piles in, is the whole game. And if that sounds daunting, well, then fear not, because we've made it a lot easier. Because right here on YouTube, you can now access the new Coin Bureau Club Lite plan. For just $10 a month, you'll get daily market updates across both crypto and TradFi. Our teams read on the best opportunities and curated updates to keep you ahead of the curve. Just tap that join button below this video to get started. Now, let's get back to it. So far, this has been sunshine and rainbows, but we need to have a closer look at what's actually generating all of that volume. And when you do take a closer look, things do get a bit more complicated. Meme coin speculation is actually driving this explosion, rather than organic super app usage. The flagship driver is a token called Cash Cat. And the origin story is more or less what you expect. Cash Cat is named after an early, discarded internal Robinhood brand concept, a little mascot cat carrying a wad of cash. The crypto crowd found it, adopted it, and ran with it. The token surged somewhere between 1,700 and 2,100% in its first week. And on July 8th, when the chain did that around $560 million in daily volume, CashCat alone accounted for nearly $100 million of it. More than $1 in every 6. Add in the rest of a leading meme coin lineup like Hoodie, Dog and Hood, Tendies, and Friends, and reports suggest the combined meme coin market caps may have reached well into the hundreds of millions at the peak. Now, meme coin mania wasn't the only factor producing massive trading volume. There were some fundamental reasons that helped drive activity on Robinhood Chain. For one, Robinhood is covering all network fees for the first 90 days, ending in late September. But it's important to remember that this chain runs on Arbitron, where gas fees are already trivially cheap. The subsidy is a nice to have, a little onboarding sweetener, but you can't really attribute the surge to that, and it's not some make or break moment when it expires. So, if we want to understand what's really happening, we need to look at the activity mix instead of the gas subsidy. And that mix leads us to a pretty big contradiction. This is a chain that was explicitly marketed as the best home for real-world assets, more specifically, tokenized equities, serious institutional-grade finance on-chain. And yet, while meme coins were doing hundreds of millions in daily volume, the actual tokenized stocks on the chain held a combined value of just 12.6 million. That's a massive difference. The froth was worth 20 times more than the entire reason the chain supposedly exists. Frankly, RWA activity on the chain has barely begun in earnest, and the man at the top basically confirmed all of this. CEO Vlad Tenev, who just days earlier had been telling CNBC that crypto's future was in tokenized real assets rather than endless meme coin creation, posted this on X. "While we're building Robinhood Chain to be the best chain for RWAs," he said, "it works great for memes too." That's the tension of this launch summed up. Really. The chain was designed for equities, but leaders are celebrating the fact that it's actually being used as a casino. And if you take the scrutiny one step further, there's one big question many are asking. Is the activity even real? Because volume is one thing, but durable liquidity is another thing entirely. The chain's volume to liquidity dynamics resembles some hot potato type trading activity. In simple terms, that means the same relatively thin pool of money getting passed around and around at high speed, printing huge volume numbers on top of very little actual depth. One figure cited 570 million in daily volume sitting on top of just 21 million in real liquidity. That's roughly a 26-to-1 ratio. That represents a small amount of capital playing an extremely fast game of pass the parcel, which creates the illusion of deep organic demand. But there has also been criticism when it comes to Robinhood Chain's decentralization. Primarily, people are concerned about the single sequencer. Robinhood Chain runs a single, centrally operated sequencer, reportedly hosted in the US. And with 100 millisecond block times, that physical location is actually very important. A trader sitting near that server experiences only a few milliseconds of latency. A trader in Sydney or across the Asia-Pacific region reportedly faces closer to 200 milliseconds. That's nearly 2 full blocks of advantage, hardwired into geography. So, on a chain marketed with a fair first-come first-served ideal, US-based traders get a front-running edge purely from where the server is located. Now, there have also been scattered reports of tokens vanishing from people's wallets shortly after purchase. But these reports seem to be unverified and anecdotal. And importantly, they're almost certainly not due to any flaw in Robinhood Chain itself. These are probably honeypot scam contracts, tokens designed to let you buy but block you from selling. These things thrive on new chains where people are acting fast without proper due diligence. But it's worth knowing the Wild West is very much open for business on Robinhood Chain. So we have a launch that's hyped up and seeing activity that's getting crazier by the day. But there's one all-important question left to ask. Can it compete? To answer that, let's split it into two separate questions. On distribution, Robinhood wins hands down. There's no real contest on that front. Nobody else has 27 million funded users that they could funnel right onto a chain overnight. Solana grew organically over years, and Base leaned on Coinbase and still had to build. Robinhood just skipped the hardest part. But when it comes to the question of tech, liquidity, and ecosystem depth, the story is very different. For starters, Robinhood actually built this as an Arbitrum Orbit rollup, an L2 relying on someone else's stack and settling to Ethereum. And under the Arbitrum expansion program, Robinhood is contractually obligated to route around 10% of net protocol revenue straight back into the Arbitrum ecosystem, 8% to the Arbitrum DAO treasury, 2% to its developer guild. In fact, ARB, the token, jumped 19% on the same day the volume news broke. So this Robinhood chain is a revenue stream for ARB holders. Now, consider how the competition is positioned. Solana has topped every chain in app revenue for 9 straight quarters and remains the undisputed home of high-frequency retail activity. Base is doing 9.2 million daily transactions with a deep, rapidly maturing DeFi stack and Coinbase's distribution behind it. But there's one more name worth considering here. What about Hyperliquid? Hyperliquid is a sovereign layer 1 doing roughly $250 billion in 30-day perpetual volume, with open interest hitting a record $11 billion in July, and over $1 billion in cumulative protocol revenue. Hyperliquid, which never claimed to be an RWA chain, holds a record $3.6 billion in open interest related to real-world assets. That's way more RWA activity than Robinhood's supposedly RWA-first chain has managed to show. So, Robinhood has an unmatched on-ramp, but it's built onto infrastructure that is years behind on developer ecosystem, liquidity depth, and proven staying power. The true test for Robinhood is whether they could convert this launch week meme coin froth into durable, everyday on-chain usage from their 27 million users. Right now, this is one of the most impressive crypto launches in years, measured by raw distribution and reach. But the activity underneath it is almost entirely highly speculative churn on a chain that has yet to prove itself. The meme coin mania will eventually normalize, and the numbers will come back down to earth. Nevertheless, a mainstream giant with 27 million customers just bet its brand on public blockchains. It's putting tokenized stocks, on-chain lending, and perpetuals in front of millions of people who've never touched a seed phrase in their lives. If there's a company that can pull off the delivery of crypto's first true mainstream super app, then it is Robinhood. And with that, that's going to be all that we have time for today. But what do you think? Did Robinhood just enjoy some launch week hype, or are we watching the future of finance being built right before our very eyes? Feel free to get highly opinionated in the comments down below. And if you want to understand the tokenization wave that all of this is ultimately being built for, go check out our deep dive right over here. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you again very soon. This is Lewis, signing off.